Okay, I'm Jeff Skelding. I'm with Friends of the Upper Delaware River. I know a bunch of you. A few of you were at the first session. Thanks for coming back. Forgive me if I make the same joke twice, okay? So we are Friends of the Upper Delaware River. Molly, myself, and Jillian are in the back. We're part of a partnership here putting together the Never Sink Watershed Management Plan. This is our fourth meeting. This is our first in-person meeting. Just a little bit of background on how we got here. This is the product of a federal grant from the Federal Delaware River Program in partnership with Sullivan County over there. Hi, Heather. And also with Trout Unlimited. Jesse's on the phone. So tonight, the watershed management plan is a lot of pieces, right? And all of it relies on public input. Everything we're doing here is trying to get people to talk, right? And engage. That's what you're doing here tonight. And then we're chunking it out in different kinds of chapters and issues. Tonight, we have a group called Natural Lands is with us. You'll hear from Kate in a moment. And their specialty is open space preservation and conservation. So you've noticed the maps on the back there. I think everybody in the room will probably agree that open space preservation is directly linked with ecological benefits and watershed management. And we're at a point here in the Never Sink where it's really critical to start talking about that. Where are the opportunities to do that? We rely on you. You live here. You know the watershed better than us. In a few minutes, we're going to ask you to walk around those maps and look at them and put dots on them and stickers on them and say, hey, these might be good places for us to think about open space conservation, right? The other piece we're doing is looking for restoration projects, places where the river is broken. There's stream erosion, culvert problems, flooding. We have ways to fix these things. We have to know where they are first, right? Then we have to go get money to fix them. Speaking of money, New York State, only a month late, got their budget done last night. And Upper Delaware River has, for the second year in a row, a line item in there for this kind of work, for funding for the Upper Delaware restoration and conservation. So big giant accomplishment for us. Thanks, Kate and Ian. And Jesse is on the phone from Trout Unlimited. Jesse, can you say a little bit about yourself? I know you're going to speak a little bit in a few minutes.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you all for tolerating me not being in person. As recently as 2019, I was a Sullivan County resident, and I really look forward to coming back to visit again soon and spend time in the Never Sink. I'm Jesse Vidala, and I work for Trout Unlimited. Very proud to be a part of this team and working hand in glove with Friends of the Upper Delaware, Sullivan County, and Natural Lands on this project. So thank you for the opportunity.
Great, thanks, Jesse. So with that, Kate, are you ready to jump in on the open space part? No, or Molly, sorry, I'm pinch hitting here for somebody else. So I'm a little.
Doing great.
We're good?
Yeah. Molly, I work with Jeff and Jillian at Friends of the Upper Delaware River. I'm going to just fill in a couple blanks. So this project is funded by the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation through a grant from the Delaware Watershed Conservation Fund, and Sullivan County is actually the prime grantee for this. Friends of the Upper Delaware River and Trout Unlimited are contracted through Sullivan County. So we're very thankful for those partnerships. And speaking of partners, in addition, we have Natural Lands, Steve Schwartz also working with us on this. And we really rely on partnerships from, all the organizations and landowners throughout the community that we are able to contact and get in touch with, who really have the knowledge that we need to identify projects, identify open space, identify other priorities in the community that really make this plan something that, we can all take together through to the implementation stage. And the partnerships that we have often allow us to leverage resources from the different groups that can work together towards a project to meet match requirements, and just really, to put enough manpower and woman power towards some of these projects to get them done. So I wanted to just quickly say that the structure of this plan is that there's a steering committee that will, they meet semi-regularly. There are also going to be some subcommittees by topic, specific subject area. So we'll send out a link So if you have an interest in a particular area, that we can link you up with that committee. And, you know, the goal of a plan like this is really to have municipalities talk to each other, to have neighbors talk to each other, to have all the different groups that are working in the watershed communicate, find some common goals, and move together, you know, along, you know, a path that where we share goals so that we can get some things accomplished, basically. And I think that's about all I have. So last summer, we did have a crew in the field and we assessed over 1,100 culverts in the Never Sink watershed. And so, you know, this project, it has, you know, a few different components, and some of those are actually getting out into the field and doing some assessment and really giving us the knowledge that we can take forward so we know which projects are priorities to work on getting funding for them. So, you know, we're already about a year into this work. This is our 4th public meeting, and I haven't been able to see the other ones. They're on our website, and we'll be sending that out. If we have your email address, we'll share all of that information with you. And we hope that you'll continue to come. We have another in-person public meeting on, Jillian, what is it, the 12th?
It's going to be June
12th. So we'll be emailing that information out as well. And I think
as development occurs, we consider on both the quality of the water, the potential for downstream. So you're going to be hearing from speakers this evening about some of their favorite places in the next. It's very important to them that they would like to see protected, and that consensus is really key. As you listen to these speakers, if you started to think about some of your favorite places. And with that, I will turn it over to Jesse. Jesse, your do you want me to pull up your PDF?
If you want to just unshare, I can jump in and share screen if that helps.
Oh, great, sorry.
Take it easier. That's okay. No problem. You give me permission, I will share screen. Cool.
okay, you should be on.
Yep, coming right up.
And
Great. Okay, cool.
Wait,
Is
hold
that
on
all right?
just a second,
Just a
Jesse.
second. I think
Sure.
Uh-oh.
There we go.
Oh, there he is. Slowly but surely. There he is. Okay, Jesse, you are good.
Great. Okay, awesome. Thank you all so much. And thank you for putting together the tech to allow me to be there. I apologize that I'm up near Syracuse today as speaking engagement, or else I would be there with you all. As mentioned, my name is Jesse Vidala. I work for Trout Unlimited. Our organization has been around since the mid-50s, taking care of cold water streams and wild fish. We work in partnership, as you all heard, with many of the great folks who are represented here today. My role is as an engagement coordinator. So I work between our volunteer chapters and our national staff on a variety of projects. I'll tell you a little bit more about the specifics of my work. This is the team that I help represent, many of which is heavily involved in our work with FUDR and specifically the Delaware watershed down through the Never Sink. We have Jeremiah Stone closest to me on the far left of my screen here. Jeremiah Stone is a field tech working heavily on this project, and as was mentioned by Molly, took part heavily in our surveys of the Never Sink watershed this past summer. We have Aaron Lyons, who is our technician and field designer up in Vermont and Maine. Tracy Brown there in the center is a name you'll hear often associated with all of our work here. She's the mastermind behind this particular team you see on the screen, the Northeast Coldwater Habitat Team. So as that name implies, we've got multiple states all working under the same initiatives to continue to protect wild fish across the region, which is a growing task, and cold, clean drinking water, which is a shared responsibility. You'll hear that crossover quite a lot today. So the representatives on the team here next to Tracy, Phil McGovern, who works up in Vermont as well. Joanne Humphreys here, flanked on Tracy's side, does an incredible job working with our field teams to design a lot of these projects. Yeah, are a really valuable asset and part of a wonderful team here. Newest to our team is Kyle Glenn and Jacob Fetterman. So that's the TU team here. A little bit about my backstory. My dad on the top left here, Joe Vidala, a conservationist, angler, and enthusiast of all wild places. My dad took me hunting and fishing when I was a really small boy, mostly around Orange and Dutchess County in the Hudson Valley, which is where I'm from. Occasionally, we'd venture out into Sullivan County out near the Roundout to some open land out that way. That was kind of my first foray into what was to the west of my home territory. And my dad was willing to allow me to go on a sixth grade trip with my student class up to Frost Valley, YMCA. So that was my first time experiencing the Neversink in a really wild place. And if any of you all have been there, you know that that's right at the notch there of the east and the west branch of the Neversink. Truly an incredible space. And I learned a little bit about some of the wild trout and the habitat that were up in the mountains and how special it was to be there. Came home beaming about it and was shared the Outdoor Life magazine that you see there from my dad about the Charmed Circle. And so my dad only knew about the Neversink really from magazines and books. And we would learn to explore it together. On the right there, you see a fly rod, which is his fiberglass rod and Orvis reel given to me many years later and a prized possession of mine now. So yeah, so that was my first forays into finding out about the Neversink. The water beneath the highlands, appropriately termed, a really incredible water system, which we're going to learn a lot more about today. Specifically, the photo you'll see here is a really important spot to me, and some of you may know this particular pool very well, looking downstream on this particular spot. This is in Bridgeville. This is just above Holiday Mountain. And I love fishing this section, and I had a really landmark experience here as a teenager fishing by myself. Watching a gentleman with a bamboo rod and just the right timing of the right fly really put on a clinic for me that inspired me to pursue a lot more of an understanding, not only of how to chase trout and catch them, but really what it was that made these wild spaces. And as a kid, I remember walking around with my dad in these many streams and rivers and saying, wow, the further up we go, the more wild the fish look and the colder the water gets. And there are all these wonderful synergies that I learned as a teenager that I now get to enjoy and employ at my work at TU. So I love the Neversink. It's kind of why I'm asked to speak here about it today. I spent a lot of time in the gorge. I really, really love it there. And just after me, you'll hear some wonderful information about updates to the gorge. It's been a special place for me for so long, and I've hiked in and out of Katrina Falls roads a million times like all of you. Now I'm excited to explore it through different trailways that are there. Truly, I love the Neversink top to bottom. I had some really great experiences down in Cuddybackville at the D&H Canal Museum as well. That's an area that I love and was pretty formative to my angling experiences as a kid. So I love that area. Really, really, really a special spot. I think there's some incredible spaces too that I hope to learn from all of you about. In particular, I'm very interested in Wingcup Brook and in Wingcup Brook and Lake Paradise, which I've read a little bit about in some of the books. Done a ton of reading on the Neversink and have loved learning a lot about the history. Most recently, this book, The Legendary Neversink by Justin Askins, is pretty incredible. A lot of what you read in this book is truly inspiring. Words from folks like John Burroughs and his story, The Speckled Trout, in particular, also Leonard Wright, who wrote this incredible book on the Neversink and his explorations into that stream and river and how to better take care of trout populations. So I really enjoyed this read, and I'm sure some of you will as well, whether you're an angler or not, to find out what it would be like to be a caretaker and a steward to a small stream of water and to learn and explore different tactics for maintaining the fish within and improving the water conditions. So something that we all do now as well. And it's a really special thing that we're now taking on this journey as a group locally to better understand, as Jeff so brilliantly stated, to better understand the watershed from top to bottom. So I enjoy being along for the ride in that particular venture. My role at Trout Unlimited, as mentioned earlier, is that I am largely in community connectivity. I like grassroots marketing. I like meeting new people who care about things that we do as well. So there's a big piece of passion here. That's why my face is always smiling when talking about the Neversink. I love being there, and I really enjoy getting to connect with folks who see it as, in that way as well. I left you with this beautiful quote from Leonard Wright, which he wrote reflecting walking through the gorge. I hope you all have similar moments out there soon. I'm leaving my name and contact number on this last screen, as well as an Instagram profile that I'm running to highlight stories about conservation, cold water, brook trout, all the good stuff. So I would love it if you would please get in contact with me. I'm so sorry I'm not there to meet you all in person, but again, please take down my name and number and ask anyone from FUDR if you need a direct contact to me. I'm happy to be here. Again, thank you all so much, and please enjoy the rest of the presentation. Share with us some great spots on where we should get to work.
Thank you, Jesse.
Hi, I'm Nancy Bahana. I was here earlier today as well, just to talk about my experiences in the Neversink River Unique in the Gorge. So the watershed is I can't speak to that's why everyone's here, but I'm in the Neversink River Gorge, and it's wonderful. Which, for those of you who don't know, it's basically on the Thompson and and below Bridgeville area to Buffalo. The great thing about it is it's land. And it's a beautiful place to go hiking. I would not want anything to ever happen to the gorge. And I like to think that so many other places along the watershed could be preserved and be as accessible and as wonderful for the rest of the county and up into Ulster as well, right? So this is just my plug, because I volunteer with the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference. And I started out just as a maintainer for them in the gorge. And then I started noticing a lot of ruins in the area. And because of that, just started doing a lot of research. And before long, my supervisor said, you're talking a lot, let's go do a tour. Let's just bring some people in and see if they're interested in all this information you're digging up. So we did, we started leading these tours together. I left one at the front in case you want to scan it'll take you right to the registration page for the trail conference. That's just history, which basically is my theme here, because my perspective right now is the historical meaning of the Neversink River and the entire watershed, from the canal, which dammed 6 lakes in the watershed minimally, to continue feeding their canals, their very valuable canals in the summertime, to the lumbering that started it all. I mean, they came looking for trees. They came up from the Forestburg. They came from Connecticut. If you've been to Glen Wild and you've seen Bowers Road, anybody seen Bowers Road? Maiden name Bowers. I am the Bowers family of Bowers Road, and I looked into it. Could have been a coincidence, but no. So I had a great uncle Zephaniah, and he came in 1805 and he settled Glen Wild. And what did he do? He started a sawmill. That's what they all did. All the men who came here, sawmills, tanneries. By the 1830s, this place was booming. And part of why I like to remember that is they kind of tore the place up, right? They came for water power. And today we look at the beautiful waterfalls and the fly fishing, and what we think of when we think of the river is the peace and the beauty and the quality of life. For them, it was just water power. They needed to turn those water wheels. And so they cut all the white pines down. And when those were gone, they cut all the hemlocks down, and tanneries were just pushing all the toxic effluent into the rivers and streams. But when all that ended, what happened? The watershed recovered to a great degree with a lot of help. Recovered, and we have a beautiful space. You wouldn't know, except for these stone walls lying along the trails, how much, unfortunately, damage was done. But the river powered an entire community and built the county. So that's my plug for the tour. I got one coming up May 20. Would love to see you all there. It's just a free volunteer thing that we do with the conference. So I don't think I can. Oh, maybe videos. Oh, I can't seem to. Can anyone help me real quick? I don't know how to access the arrow. You know what I'm saying? I can't. Beaver. First beaver I ever saw. A real beaver. I was just shocked. That's down on the Blue Trail East in the gorge. But the wildlife, I mean, I'd never seen. I go down to the Neversink and I will always see a bald eagle, soaring south the length of the river. Foxes. We get more beaver. I'm doing something wrong. There we go. This is the place at the end of Wolf Brook. So Wolf Pond in Rock Hill feeds Wolf Brook. And Wolf Brook empties into the Neversink. And you'll see here all the stonework. Look closely. That is a lot of manpower that went into building what was a dam across the Wolf Brook. And then to the left, you'll see what was pretty good sized sawmill. It was a 4-man sawmill, which isn't small by Sullivan County standards. And this is the corner that is left that you'll only see if you're on the river looking at the shore of the sawmill. And this is, oh, nice. It's a collage. Okay. Well, you got a collage. In case we don't get back to it, that's one of the tours. Water snake happy on a rock. And this is my favorite. You're going to have to help me again. I didn't even see what you did. Yes, thank you. Okay, everybody listen. We know where that is? High Falls. High Falls. Another, it's just a gorge. You can just walk to that. You can walk to this place from Katrina Falls Road in Rock Hill. You know me. We can name this rhododendron. It took me a long time because the mountain laurel, I'm still not perfect between those two. I mean, you know, is it May and June? When these bloom all along the trail, it's fantastic. Now have an owl. I'm looking at an owl. I think we must be done. That's all right. So I was just showing you the beauty that is the gorge, but it's the whole Neversink. Jesse was talking about Claryville and Frost Valley, which is a YMCA day camp or sleepover camp. And my daughter went up there, and my daughter became an outdoors girl because of Frost Valley and because of her introduction to the Neversink through that. I got to, there was an image of us kayaking. Some friends and I went out and finally got to kayak the Neversink River. I mean, it was never much of a transportation hub. It was power because it's very hard to travel. People tried. Some entrepreneurs tried to blast that river into submission in the 1830s, late 1820s, and failed to make it a raftable river. But you can get a little inflatable kayak out there and you can really see the Neversink River and its banks. I just took it from Denison Ford. I'm going on about this because there was access. I was able to just drive a car up, get out, and put my boat in. And that's the kind of public access we're talking about. How else do you get to your river and enjoy your river? And then we were able to go down 4 miles to just above, at Bridgeville, just above Holiday Mountain, where you're able to put out safely. I'm going to explore some less safe parts of the river at some point, and I'll let you know how that goes. But it's just wonderful. So I guess all I'm saying is the Neversink is worth preserving. It's been done before. It could be done again for even more areas, more spaces. What was I going to say? One last bit as far as scenic views, we were talking a little bit. I know Edwards Road is just the most beautiful stretch where you're driving north of Bridgeville, and you can really see the river for a long portion. There's not any housing, very little housing. It's fantastic. And it reminds me of a place in the gorge where we have a ruin where it was the lumber baron, he had built himself quite a home for the times, again, right at the base of Katrina Falls Road. And he had angled the house, not with the road, but kind of angled so that it perfectly looked across what would have been his sheep pasture, because he would have cut down all those trees, to the gorge and to the river and that sort of a cliff face, but beyond it. And I just thought that was, he was just there for the lumber and the wood, but he appreciated a good view, and he made sure his house took that in. And I will show you those ruins if you ever come down. Yes. Come to the gorge. So I went on the part that was, I was told by everyone, you can do this, it's safe. And I put in it Denison Ford, which I've been told is Glenwild, but I'm calling it South Falls. Look it up, somebody help him. It's how to describe how to even get there. But we'll talk.
Yeah, you've got two poles.
There's two poles, that one and then another.
And it can be, you're not taking like a drip. No,
No.
No, don't lean over the falls.
It's serious level kayaking.
Yeah. I stopped short of the gorge.
And you've got, once you're in, you're in for a long time. So you want to know what you're doing. It's kind of recreational kayaking. So.
But this spot is, yeah, you put in a dentist in here.
Yeah. You can put it to a mountain or put it in the road and go.
You could have had Holiday Mountain and there is nothing. I mean, I was picking up the boat and getting over some, so absolutely.
Yeah.
That's true. I use but I intend to explore that area too, but I went with the approved, I don't know what it was, 3-4 miles, if that. And that was fabulous. I need to do it because I need to see the ruins within the gorge, but I'll be careful. I promise. And
Thank you so much to both of our speakers. I know Jesse probably had to go by now, but thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. And that's this sharing of knowledge is really what tonight is all about, right? We are here to hear from you, the local experts. So we're going to go through the instructions, although I mean, we could watch the beaver one more time. We're gonna hear the water one more time. No, I love it. So here are our instructions for the evening. I want to make sure I get them. So there are 4 stations for the actually just the big table this week. And we are going to be giving you 2 strips with 3 sticky dots. One is green. And so that green dot, those 3 green dots are for your favorite places in the watershed. 3 unprotected areas that are so important to you that any development would be unacceptable. If you are from a particular municipality and you're familiar with that area, you can put all 3 of your dots on one map. That's fine. We also have blue dots. Tonight, we are a little short on blue dots. There might be some yellow dots. And those are to note stream projects that should take place. And it is essential when you place your blue or yellow dot that you talk to FUDR staff, Molly, Jeff, Jillian, if you could tell them about the flooding or the stream project you are considering there. They are going to number your dot and have some associated notes. So it's very important as we place those other dots that we have the ability to what's going on. So we're also have one map of the whole water up here, and we're going to go through these maps just real quickly to orient everybody to the watershed. So this is the big watershed map that you're seeing up front. That little red star is the reservoir. And you notice that the watershed is not just what's north of that reservoir, it's all of the way south here. So we have on map 1, that's this map here. To go over what the legend. The dark green already protected lands includes protected farmland, parks. There might be conservation of private lands. That's all that's showing up in that dark green color. Parcels over 10 acres that have not been protected yet are retained. So this kind of, I think, there's a good example of it here. It's can't get my mouse over there, but it's this, all of the country areas. And then areas that have been developed already are in white. So the river, wetlands, and flood zones are in blue. So again, feel free to put your dots on any map. We do want to focus on opportunities for open space. And the idea with open space preservation is that you get ahead of it. So we're going to try not to focus on properties that are already being developed because we're trying to plan the properties that are not being developed that you think are. Map moving from north, south, up to down. Crawford, Woodridge, Thompson, and Monticello. So you're, that green that you have up here, you have a little, you have less preserved land as you upstream. Is again. Like the vast hill. Comes together. The furthest is for. The structure. Apply your green dots, the three unprotected areas that are critical to you, in terms of open space preservation, and then your blue or yellow dots to the areas where street projects should take place, and remember to speak with the FUDR staff member about that. There was a question about that in the first session. The areas are where the project, and you know, where it's flooded.